All right, and with that, I am going to give the floor over to Duncan. Duncan, it is your floor, sir.
Excellent. Good morning, you filthy apes. So, I got two quotes up on the screen, and there's extra credit if anybody of you know who actually said that or quoted that. First thing I want to do is I'm just going to go a little bit through the background of this briefing, why we're having it now, some of the caveats that I do have of giving the brief. So, the first off is that English, of course, is not my first language. I didn't really sleep too much last night, so if I hang on some of the words. Some of the words are not exactly the right ones. Bear with me. So what actually triggered me was one of these discussions last week. So we had our Korean ape or ant army, whose name I, of course, can't remember. I can't read it though.
Yishin.
Um, Come again?
Yishin. Yishin is his name.
Yishin. Yishin. Yeah. So we were asking about how is the Korean ant army? Is they still going strong? He said, yeah, we're going strong, but we don't trust you Americans to hold until the higher levels. And initially, I just laughed and shook it up, but as the weekend approached, I started thinking about it, and that was actually my first trigger: is that we don't trust the person that's to the right of me. And we're going to go back into that as we go through the presentation. So my initial thoughts were basically formed last weekend. I've been busy all of this week, and the presentation that you're going to see now is more or less put together in 1 hour. Was hoping to do a little bit more with some pictures, do a little bit more of DD before actually presenting. The second trigger and why we're doing it now was actually when Lou came out with his video talking about everybody needs to sell, or no, sorry, buy in the last hour on Friday to get it to 21. Um, that in itself, combined with an increased amount of thought, and we're going to recognize some of the things as we go through it, that has happened this week. Within the last week, I've seen an increase, and I've seen some of the things that points toward disinformation or influence campaign being scaled up. Um, because of the limited time I used to put the presentation together. So this is basically just my talking points that we're going to go through. Um, it also means that there is a certain amount of simplification. I'm hoping that we could do this within about 40 minutes at the maximum, because your attention span can't hold any longer than that. Um, if you have any questions during the presentation, write it in the chat. Casey is going to monitor it for me. If it's on something that we're currently talking about, I will answer the question when we're discussing that topic or when I'm presenting that topic. Um, if it's not directly related to what we're talking about, try and save them to the end, and we'll go through some of the questions there. Casey was also try to pick up the questions as we go. I'm probably going to mention Russia a few times. It's not because I hate on Russia. Um, it's because if we look at something like disinformation, influence, and warfare in the social media space, in the information space, Russia really are the masters. And if you want to look at real life examples, there's plenty to choose from when looking at Russia. Um, any takes on the two quotations or quotes?
Somebody said something about uh,
Sun Tzu.
Art of War. Yeah.
Sun Tzu is the first, yeah. That's Anthony, I can see. So the second one, I actually wanted that to be Clausewitz. So in my mind, as I try to dive deep into my own head and find some quotation, I thought the second one was Clausewitz, and I started looking it up. It's not Clausewitz. Clausewitz just touch upon the destruction of the enemy's will to fight, but it's more like pummel him to the ground, destroy all his forces, destroy all of the civil society, and then force your will upon him. I'm pretty sure somebody said that. If it's not out there, I'm going to claim it. Now it's my quotation. Uh, with that being out of the way, we're just going to move forward one slide at a time. This is what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about me, a little bit about being a soldier, and I'm going to try and tie it all in together. Starting with disinformation campaigns on a higher level, looking into some of the specific characteristics of disinformation. And I'm going to use disinformation, but this is also influence or misinformation. So there's a slight difference to everything, but I'm just going to call it disinformation. You can also call it FUD. We're going to take a short case study of Ukraine, of how it can look. Uh, it's not directly applicable to ours, but you probably notice the red line as we go through. Then I try to put in what would a simple anti-ape campaign look like? What would I do if I were to influence and spread disinformation within the ape community? And I tried to turn it around. What would we do if we're going after the hedge funds? And just to round it all up, trying to put it into a perspective, try to tie it all together so we actually see that everything I'm saying today is very, very important. So, who am I? So, my background is within the armed forces. Um, I'm still active service. I'm closing in on 25 years soon. I've been deployed a couple of times in Afghanistan, Iraq, Balkans, and the Baltics. Um, I haven't worked directly with information operations or psyops, as we also call it sometimes, but I have touched in upon it and I have seen how we do it ourselves, and we're not really that good at it. The next part is, why do soldiers fight? And then that comes back to the comment of, I don't trust the American apes to hold to that level. So for soldiers, when we join the armed forces, there's usually a lot of different reasons. And you'll hear patriotism, you'll hear wanting to make a difference. All the high ideals are going to get mentioned. The thing is, once you're in the ditch and you got bullets flying over your head, there's one thing every soldier fights for. Fuck all the high ideals. That's not it. We're not fighting for the country. We're fighting for the guy next to us. And the reason we fight is that we know he fights for us. The guys who's there in the trench, who's there in the foxhole with you, he's family. She's family. And that's why you fight. When it's down, dirty, and gritty, you're fighting for the one next to you. And that was triggered. That was the trigger. I don't trust the guy next to me. I don't trust the Americans to hold to this point. I'm going to go a little bit over hating your enemy. So there's uh, a much used way of making your enemy hated, making them evil. This is about good and evil. Um, and you see it a lot, especially, and it's not to fret on the Americans, but you see a lot in the American films. Nazis are evil. We don't have to understand them. They're evil. The Taliban is evil. We're good. It's black, it's white, it's them against us. And the good thing you do about that, if you go down to the grunt level, an enemy that is not human or subhuman, who is evil, is easier to fight, is easier to kill. Um, so there's a sentiment of pushing this within your own ranks when you talk about the enemy. The enemy is evil. You have to kill him. It's for the greater good, anything like that. Because it makes it easier for you. It makes it easier in the moment. It makes it easier for you afterward. But there's also a backside to it. Because if we paint it that way, we don't understand our enemy. And if we don't understand our enemy, and if you put it back to the first thing, is that we don't need to destroy our enemy. We don't need to kill him. We just need to kill his will to fight. If you kill his will to fight, we win the war. The only way to do this is know why he fights, what is his value, what is his background, is family something important to him, and we need to press our attacks on that. And a lot of these attacks are not like physical or direct warfare. We achieve those by using information warfare. I'm not talking disinformation warfare. I'm talking information warfare. So we did talk when we were talking about Afghanistan a lot of winning the hearts and minds of the people. And the problem was, so we didn't really understand the Taliban. We didn't want to understand the Taliban, and we failed miserably. We portrayed and thought of the Taliban as one big, very organized organization with all a singular purpose and goal in life, and with a uniform belief, and that wasn't the case. So when we had our information campaign against them, we didn't address them for who they were. We didn't address them as the family fathers they were, as the brothers they were, as the sons they were. And that's the thing. When you're in a war, when you're fighting an enemy, if you're killing somebody from the other side, that is somebody's son. And you gotta own that. And you gotta know that as a soldier. You're taking lives, and there is gonna be collateral damage. So that's like the dark introduction. Welcome to Duncan's TED Talk.
Is there some music that plays here? I should have played some music.
Yeah, Attack of the Valkyries. Bum, bum, bum. Now, if we're looking at disinformation campaigns, and again, using disinformation a little bit broader than the actual meaning of it, there's a few different types of campaigns that you can run. There's also, if we look over the past about 10 years or something like that, there's been evolving. They've become more complex. So one of the first things that we've seen, and this is something goes way back, is what we call the character murder. So if we have somebody who stands up, reveals some truth, actually hits the right DD, we're gonna go after the man, not after the ball. We're gonna go after him. Um, we're gonna go after his trustworthiness. We're gonna look into his past, see if we can find something that makes him not credible. Um, we're probably going to find some truth because if you're willing to go to the front, there's also the risk that you done something stupid in your life at some point, and we're going to find that. And then we're going to reveal it at an opportune time. We might sit on it for a while, and as uh, the crescendo of the information campaign just before the final battle, we're going to push this out. And everything you thought was right, take something like Trey. If anything you thought about Trey, he was convicted. He was right in everything. He might have been saying all the way through that he held shares at AMC. If I can prove or at least make you believe that he sold those shares in June, you're gonna distrust him. You're gonna distrust everything he says, no matter how right he was, no matter how good the DD was. If I can kill the character, I can kill his message. So a very good example of this, if we're looking besides AMC, so going back to I think 2016, there was a Finnish journalist who made a series of articles on the Russian troll factory in St. Petersburg. And as those articles became started coming out, they went after her quite aggressively, and started digging her past, starting questioning her mental health. Uh, when she was 20, I think, she was arrested for having narcotics on her, something like that. And they pulled this up a lot of years later and used that to question her credibility. Um, besides that, besides the truth of these things, they started mixing in lies. So if you're looking at this, some of it you can go directly in and confirm, but there's a lot of lies mixed into it that's going to be harder to confirm, but you're going to believe this because the things that you were able to confirm are true. Why shouldn't the rest of it be true? This might not hold over time, but I don't want it to hold over time. I just wanted to hold until I made the decisive strike or the decisive battle. So that's one of the things that we do with the disinformation campaigns, one of them. Then there's the simple counter narrative. You say A, I'm going to say B, and I'm going to battle your narratives. I'm going to attack your narrative. I'm not going after the man, I'm going after the narrative. Um, Again, Russia, one of the main narrative, if you look at Russian, and it depends where you're in the world, if you call it information or disinformation, but one of the main narratives from Russia is that NATO are aggressive. NATO is building up forces along Russia's borders, and it's NATO that threaten Russia. I'm not going to go into the politics of that because obviously, but this is a counter narrative. NATO's out saying we're a defensive alliance. Russia is saying you're aggressive, you're threatening our nation, you're putting armed forces straight at our border. They're doing the same on the other side. So there's the counter narrative. You're going to compete with the narrative. You're going to attack the other narrative with an opposite narrative. Then we have what I call the targeted narrative. Um, so the targeted narrative would usually go after a specific part of the population or people who share a common belief. So I'm going to take the belief they have. For example, if we have some conspiracy theorists out there that believe in a new world order or lizard men are running the government, I'm going to feed my narrative into that story. This is not meant for everybody to latch onto, but it's meant for this specific group that they're going to grab my narrative and make it part of their own because I'm latching on to a story that they're already telling, to a belief that they're already working on. And the final one is one of the newer ones, is the narrative overload. So again, you come up with a narrative. In this case, we saw it with the um, airplane that was down in Ukraine. So the initial story from the West was that this was shot down with a Russian anti-aircraft missile. What we saw in the beginning was the simple counter narrative. So they said it wasn't us, it was somebody else. And that evolved into a narrative overload. Suddenly there were so many different narratives, so many stories of what happened out there that you as a normal person couldn't care less because you don't have the time to go into every narrative, see, is this true? Is there some truth to this? Could this be the right one? So you get so much information, so much conflicting information on the same story that you more or less just give up. And you're not going to bother with that story anymore. It's just, okay, I don't care what is truth because this is too much for me to handle. So these are like the four main ways of going about it. For those of you who's smart out there, you would probably, and I'm not saying these are campaigns targeting us on the Reddit, but you would see some of the same things on, for example, Reddit, on Twitter that we're looking at here. We're going to go into the next one because it might be something, it might not be something. There might be a nefarious player behind them, or there might be in the background. So what we need to know, and that's especially because we look at the FUD in our different social media and anything like that. And a lot of it we're laughing at. It's like, oh, did I really think that we believe in this? No, because you're not the target group. This narrative is not meant for you. So different groups, different narratives. I'm going to play on what matters to you. I'm going to play on what is going to break down your will. Or I'm going to work on those who are not in the AMC, those who might come into AMC. I might work on the government, elected government officials. Each part of the campaign will have a specific target and a specific narrative that binds into the overall narrative that AMC is a bad play, basically. There's also the next one. A really good campaign consists of several lines of oration. So it's not just one of those. You would see all four of the things that I mentioned before. If this is done properly, you would see all four of them linking in, supporting each other, and targeting different parts of both the community, the society, and the decision makers. I already covered that best lies, they have some truth in them, especially if the truth is easy to confirm and the lies are hard to confirm. So if you mix it a little bit, it makes it easier to convince us or spread FUD among us. Use of platforms, multiple platforms, very good. And you also have private companies actually doing this and lending their service or renting their service to governments or to private actors in order to use the different kind of platform. Being the old kind of platform, it's the news in the TV, or it's newspapers, or it's social media or Discord or anything like that. The guys on the other end of this are good at knowing at what platform should I use to hit the right target group with the right narrative. So I have a suspicion, I don't know if this is true, but I have a suspicion that a lot of these guys were probably into advertising before. A good example, if you walk into a supermarket, and I'm gonna guess that this is probably the same in a lot of countries, the first thing you're gonna walk into when you walk into a supermarket is fruits and vegetables. Please not, Casey. That's right. Yeah.
That's absolutely 100% true. I mean, they do have two entrances, but yeah, it's fruits and vegetables for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. And usually the last thing that's going to be right by the register, that's like candy and things that you would buy but you didn't plan on buying. And that's actually made to influence you from the start. So when you walk into the supermarket, first thing you're going to see is the fruits and vegetables, and you think fresh things. You think this is delicious, this is good. And the last thing is, because when you're in line up there, you're more prone to just look around and grab this small Snickers or soda or candy of some kind. And that's exploiting human nature. And these guys are good at it. They've been doing this for years. Take some of those guys who's been working in advertising and anything like nudging and anything like that, put them into a disinformation campaign. They're going to be doing really great. And the last part I said is it will never stand alone. So, for example, if we take the first line of attacking a person, you would need somebody to gather information. So there's a information gathering phase and a dissemination of these things. There's some kind of analysis in between. If we're looking at something with the AMC, if it's done properly, and it is from time to time, you will see that the FUD campaigns and the price action are very closely interlinked. You would also see, and what I'm fearing a little bit at the moment, what I think I'm seeing is that they're ramping it up now. Everybody's been talking about this week. We do have a lot of options out there. Um, if we had a delta hedging and if we had a gamma squeeze now, that would be absolutely fatal to them. So this is one of the places where they could give a decisive battle and they can win a decisive battle because everybody one out there is pumped for this Friday. Everybody wants to see this go up, and if it doesn't, they win a psychological um, victory. And if it goes wrong, if they misstep here, this could mean the end of a lot of them. So you will see like kind of a crescendo up to the decisive points or decisive dates where everything seems to lock in. Also, again, coming back to the going after persons, going after the leaders of the community, going after those who do the great deed. They might have the compromising information for a long time. They might just hold on to it until the very right moment to let it go. No, any questions so far, Casey, that we need to address, or should I just keep going because I'm on a fucking roll?
Monty just brought up the whole Al thing, and that's it's definitely where you're what you're talking about at this moment in time is exactly what we're seeing happening within the community within the last 48 hours.
Yeah,
It's not just Al. It's me. It's
no,
everybody. Everybody's getting attacked right now.
I I saw the Al thing as we spoke with Casey earlier. As I was about to set this up, I was just thinking, oh, let me just see what's on Reddit. I'm not saying that Al is a victim of this. I'm not saying that he's not a creep because that might as well be what he is. But if we're following this, it's interesting that the information is coming out right now. And again, he might have done some of these things. He might have done all of it. But even if he's just done a few of these things, even if it's just text messages that's real from him and the rest is fabricated, perfect timing. Take him out of the play. We can't see the Bloomberg terminal anymore. We can't have him hype up the community in a crucial moment. And he's going to have a hard time going out and defending what he's done, especially if there's some truth to it. So yeah, the Al thing is certainly suspect. And again, there's also a reason that I pushed to get this forward to this week. Hopefully, we would have had this in the beginning of the week, not now, but that wasn't an option, unfortunately. So, returning to some of the other general characteristics of disinformation, usually you would exploit the societal fault lines. So, if you have some tension within society between groups, you would go after that. So in Europe, one of the things that we've seen here, and one of the things that's much in our mind, is the refugees, especially the refugees coming in from Africa, coming in for Syria. Um, Enhancing that division in between, not letting in, just basically shutting them out, or accepting them with open arms, is a way to create a division within society. If we look at how we have it with us, and that's also the next one, pitching opposites against each other. They're more or less the same thing, but not quite. The whole AMC versus GME. That's a way to create division. That's a way to us to fight each other. Because as soon as we start fighting each other, as soon as we focus on each other, we can't focus on who's really behind this. Um, this also goes back to, again, if you take something like Lou, if you take Al, because at the moment now there's going to be people out there who's going to defend it. There's going to be people out there who's going to attack him. I always knew he was a SEAL. He works for the hedge. No, he's one of the main reasons I'm still in the play. So all the attention we have, all the energy we have, we're using on each other and not in a positive way. So I think it's on the next slide, but what you really want to do with a disinformation campaign is you want to give it a life on its own. So I want to start the divide, but I'm not the one who's going to drive it. I'm going to get you guys to drive the the division. I'm going to say get you guys to attack each other, and I'm just going to fuel it from the background. A good disinformation campaign takes a life on its own and makes you contribute to the campaign. So I only just need to kindle it a little bit from time to time. I don't have to use a lot of time once I get it going. It's going to be feeding of itself. Using influencers, venues of trust. This goes as I put it up here because there's different ways of using, but as I meant it for here is a lot like lobbyism. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to some of the persons that hold a certain credibility, either within the community or on a broader scale. This could also be politicians, and I'm gonna work on them. They don't necessarily gonna know that they're part of this information campaign. They're not necessarily gonna go and say the things that it's saying nefariously. Does that make sense? Um, it might just be me keeping pushing my narrative on them, convincing him this is the actual truth. Uh, the dumber they are, or the less they're into the subject from the start, the easier it is to manipulate them to believing in my truth. And as soon as we have somebody that is well known, that is trusted, this could be journalists, for example, we do not make the connection to the next level of who's really behind this. Because we trust that this journalist is independent. He's always made good news before. Why would he be influenced by a foreign power or by a Hetty or by a large company? So using these influencers and venues of trust. Dynamic campaign. The narrative is static. What I'm going to tell you and what I'm trying to convince you of is the same overall message. AMC is a bad play. There's no gamma squeeze. There's no short squeeze. And if there was a gamma squeeze, it's over. AMC is a bad play. The fundamental value and the whole thesis is wrong. It's going to go lower. It's over. So that's the overarching. But the dynamic campaign, I mean, that we're going to adjust. We're going to adjust the campaign on how it's working. If something's working, we're going to push more in that direction. If something not working, we're going to abandon that. So we all the time we're going to adjust the campaign, but we're not going to adjust the overall narrative. Um, Diving a little bit deeper of how do these professional work. So what we're seeing is that some of the things that also our Finnish journalist discovered and told about is of these professional trolls working in pairs of three. And an example on that could be that we have an obvious troll popping up on Reddit saying something outrageous. And you will have the two other, actually, maybe the first one, coming in, destroying his argument, calling him a shill. So he's calling out the shill. So we don't expect for him to be a shill. Now you have the third person coming in, and then the actual thought might not be in the main article, but would be hidden within the comments. And the ones in the comments will disguise themselves as us. And all this is orchestrated. Every answer, every reply, all the way down through there has already been made before they start posting it. playing both sides. Yeah, I think we covered that more or less. Giving the narrative alive on its own, I went through that earlier. Is that saying we actually want this to be driven by you, to be driven by us? The less work I need to do from my troll position, from my disinformation position, the better. Because then I can pull back, I can remain an overview of what's happening, and I can start new lines of operation, new ways of attacking. Um, last two is when we look at something on a longer term. So planting moles and building a legend. Building a legend is basically building a credible story about somebody. And I don't want to attack Lou. I find Lou entertaining to look at, but he would be a good example of having him come in, or another YouTuber. It could be another YouTuber building a lot of trust in the community to work on the long run, to at the decisive moment pull the rock, come up with bad advice, throw off up in the wrong direction, attacking some of the others. But building a legend and building the trustworthiness and a background around a person takes time. So these are like one shot. Once you use this, and that's the most expensive, most difficult to make, you know that we're looking at the end game. We know you're looking at a decisive battle, not the decisive battle necessarily, but a decisive battle. And the last, again, building good due diligence. Again, if you can get everybody rallying on that, buying options is a really bad thing. And that's going to be the narrative for 2 3 months. Suddenly, swoop in, we say, that's actually a very bad thing. You shouldn't do options because so and so. So what we believe, one of the fundamentals of our play was placed on an earlier point just to be destroyed at later in order to make that uncertainty. If we can't trust this, which was a core DD, how about the other DDs? Can we trust them? So the last part of this is the really difficult to make. This is the really suspect part of it. And that's also what's going to be hard to do, and it's going to be expensive, and it needs you to have a long horizon to do these things. We're just going to take, there's like a natural break here. Anything in regards to this, because I'm just going to take a short Ukrainian case, and then I'm going to go in and say, what would I do if I'm going to attack the apes? And what could we do if we're going the other way?
It's going to take a little bit of a hot second for people to respond to that just due to the
Yeah.
delay. But um, I think, as long as you're going to cover like what we can do to combat this, that's probably one of the key things that I would be concerned about. Like, what's the anti side to that, right? Like, how do you combat against all this disinformation and, because the whole Al versus Al in Boston, or I can't even remember what his name is, but was that, like, is that something that we should be focusing on, or is it something that we should just, I mean, obviously, if he's doing something inappropriate, that's not cool, right? But
No.
does that mean that his DD was bad? Or using the Lou example, does Lou know that he's saying or giving bad advice? And maybe Lou's really just a good guy, but he's just saying things, or he's being led to say things that may not necessarily be a great idea. Like, how do we
Yeah.
combat about what's right and what's
How do we
wrong?
combat that?
Yeah.
Uh, I think a lot of it is awareness. We're going to come back to why we're in a worse situation than they are. But the main thing is that they can lie. We can't. If we lie, we lose credibility. Everything falls to the ground. But they're able to lie and manipulate. If you're saying anything, Casey, I can't hear you.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Okay, fair enough. Um, but we're going to revert to that. In the case of Lou, as I said, I'm not going to judge him if he's a shitty person, if he's not a shitty person. Even bad persons come up with good ideas. Even people that are shitty might be right. So if the DD is valid, he might be a bad person. If he's a bad person, if he does these things, we can discuss, does he have the right to speak? But it doesn't change what he's already done, what he's already said, what he's already put forth. Um, is it true? I don't know. What I find suspect with L is the timing of it. So as I understand, it happened yesterday or today, just before the end of all the options. And that's a strange point in time. So he might have done it, he might not have done all of it, uh, but that does not disqualify his DD necessarily. In regards to Lou, and it's not to put Lou in a bad light, because he might actually believe what he's saying. He might be doing this out of frustration, um, or he might be influenced by some of his buddies, the guys that he's talking to, the guys from his old environment, that they are actually playing him. They're actually pushing him in a direction that he shouldn't be pushed in. Um, Again, I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to try and put a label on people and calling the laptop of hedges. I'm just saying that at the moment we have a lot of things happening at the same time. Not all of them are going to be connected to nefarious work or the hedges, but some of it is, and more than normal. So being able to distinguish which is which is difficult. That's why you need to put on a broader view in order to say, is this going up, is it going down, what is happening at the moment?
What it sounds to me
Does that
like you're
make sense?
yeah, what it sounds to me like you're describing is they're sowing the seeds of doubt and mistrust within the community, and then all they have to do is just apply a little bit of sunlight, a little bit of water, and just watch it grow, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't really have to sit there and consistently. They just have to throw the idea out there. And if the
Yeah.
idea takes and holds, then the job's been done. If it doesn't take and
Yes.
hold, they move on to something else and attack a new target from a different, or they have multiple ways of attacking.
Yeah.
And they let the seeds grow. They're throwing
Yeah.
seeds everywhere and just letting water take place.
So we could know my entire presentation in about 30 seconds. That's perfect, Casey. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, no, but that is one of the main points of this. If it's done correctly, if it's done good by them, that's the thing. Plant the seed, watch it grow. All right, let's move on then. So Ukraine case study is not going to directly in it's going not going to be directly connected to AMC in any way. It's more being connected to the first thing I was talking about of fighting for the person in the foxhole next to you because you know they're going to fight for you. So this is an older article from Ukraine where they were talking about how do the Russians combine the disinformation influence with actual warfare. So one of the first things that the Russian did, there's numerous ways to do this, is collecting the phone numbers of the soldiers that were in the front, getting the phone numbers on the relatives on the soldiers on the front. And once you have something like this, you can also go in and say, where's the phone situated? So you can see where the soldiers are. You can map out the position if they have the phone on them, and you know which phones there are. So before, one of the decisive things, what they did is they messaged the soldiers out there, and there were different kind of messages. Um, but one of the messages basically said that the army unit that's next to you, the one who's supposed to protect you on your right, they had left their position. They're returning home to their wives and to their family. The next would be that your army commander is no longer there. He's also left. You're on your own. You don't want to die here. What are you dying for? Do the smart thing. Do as the others.
I
Then,
think
as
in
we're
America that would be called abandonment.
yeah,
Yeah.
America did some of the same back in especially the first Gulf War. Can take that as well. The next thing would be a message to the family. And the message would sound like it was an official message and would tell them that your son, unfortunately, has been killed in battle. And right after the family would get this message, or they would allow the family to send a message to the soldier, usually as soon as the soldier got the message, they would kill the mobile phone net. So those back home was just told that they lost a son. The one at the front line will get a message from those back home saying, "Oh, are you dead? Please respond. Come back to us." And not too long after they killed the connection, they would shield them with artillery. This is, in its core, beautiful. It's a beautiful way of killing the morale and diminishing the will to fight. And again, coming back to, I don't have to kill you. I just have to remove your will to fight. So what the Americans basically did in the first Gulf War, which I think was the second Gulf War, if you have to be accurate, is that they did something similar. At that point, we didn't have so much with social media and everything like that, but they would do something like a bomber would fly over the Iraqi positions at the front line, and they would drop flyers that said, next time the bomber is going to fly by, it's not going to be leaflets that we drop on you. Return to your family. Live to see another day tomorrow. So you've done it as well. We've done it as well. This, the next couple of slides, sorry about that. Next couple of slides is basically, as I made the PowerPoint show, the slideshow, I thought, well, what would I do if I were to attack the apes? And then I tried to turn around and say, okay, how can we fight back? And all of this is made like in literally 5 to 10 minutes. So it's not comprehensive, and you see it's not going to follow the same way it's made. But one of the targets I will go after the what I call the diamond apes. All us who are convinced of the play. All us who held from 72 down to 20 are still holding and laughing as it goes down. My venues of attack, the information I would go after, again, I would discredit our leaders. I would discredit Adam Aaron. I would discredit Jared Gensel. We've seen that a lot. We followed it. I'm not sure it all stems from us. I would go after the prominent YouTube figures. Lou being one of them, Al being a big one, Trey. Unfortunately, Casey, you're still too small. So
I'm safe.
you're safe. No,
I'm
you're
safe.
not safe. But
No,
but you're
no,
not
I'm
gonna
not.
get the same kind of attention that the ones that are able to rally a lot. Again, discredit them.
Yeah.
Find all the bad things and push it out at the right moment. I would create distrust in the system. The US system is rigged against you. You cannot win this. We know this is illegal, but that's the way the laws are. No matter what you do, you will always lose. No matter how good your DD is, you're gonna lose because it's rigged against you. And I'll probably bring up Overstock and say, well, same thing there. What happened? They lost. You haven't changed the rules since then. You're still gonna lose. All the rules that are pushing in now, and that's a lot of rules, it's not gonna change the thing. It's to save them, it's not to save you. So distrust in the system, distrust in your politicians, distrust in your fellow ape. Then we return all the way back to the top. The reason that we know this is going to work is because we are holding. We all say it's easy to hold on the way down, but are we all going to hold on the way up? Do we trust the man on our right to hold to the same amount as me? Do we trust the man on our left? So I'm going to tell you, Trey sold. He might be a big man saying everything. I'm going to tell you that the Korean ants, what they're talking about 300. They're not. But that's what I'm going to tell you. That's where they're going to bail. And as soon as they bail, the house of cards is going to rumble down. And you're going to be the back holder. You're going to be left with the fundamental price of AMC. That's going to be somewhere between $15 and $20. Or, as we say at the moment, as a hedge fund, that's going to be $1. That's it. And I'm going to create the infight. I'm going to make you focus your attention on each other. So you're not focusing on me. DME is going to call you a distraction. We're going to say to the DME, well, guys, you didn't trust your fellow ape when you had to run up. Your squeeze is over. Your squeeze happened in January. That was it. The reason ours is a better play that we had the time to learn from you. We got organized. Yours is over. You might as well join us. So you create this tension, this infight, and we're going to focus on each other. We're not going to see the big devil, I think Lou was going to say. Pushing it down a little bit. Then I would make another campaign. I would target the new and the coming apes. I would tell them the main squeeze is over. It will only run to 60. It will only run to 50. There are better plays out there. Look at BBIG. It's running. You can make more money in this. The other's been here for 1 year. Are you going to wait 1 year? Well, if you look at the other plays, you can make the same in a couple of weeks. The company business dying. Nobody goes to the movies. Nobody. And you're going to be the backholders. The old apes that's down there, those who call themselves diamond hands, as soon as they're back in green, they're going to sell and you're going to be left holding the bag. Remember, these messages are not for us. There's a little bit of overlap in the message, but these messages are not for us. So a lot of the thought that we're saying, I will sell at 100. Jesus told me to sell at 60. That's not necessarily aimed at us. That's aimed at the new or possible coming apes. And I would go after your friends and family, your co-workers. The message there is you're gambling with your private economy, your 401, your pension. Do you want to work until you're 70 if this fails? This is irresponsible. You're part of a cult. You're being brainwashed. This is an echo chamber. You don't see the truth. So I'm going to guilt trip you through your family, through your friends, through your co-workers. So there's also a target venue for me. The public, the wider public, the elected official, all the ones you have sitting in Congress, Senate. I'm going to tell them you're crashing the economy. This is your fault. The economy might crash anyway, or we're looking at something at the moment that could look like a correction. This is your fault. This is these dumb cult-like calling themselves apes that don't give a shit about you. What they're gambling with is your 401. What they're gambling with is the entire American economy. They are dangerous. You are dangerous. This will hurt Joe, Jane, six packs, all their livelihood. People are going to lose jobs on this. People have to give up their homes. If you apes don't give up on this strange way, this illegal play that you're going at, you're colluding. You everybody agreeing to buy in the last half hour on Friday, that's collusion. That's illegal. And we have to make rules to stop that. We already have rules that be able to stop that. Or we're gonna come after you. So that's the next venue. So different messages, different target audiences, and different things I want to achieve by this. Questions? Before we go into the final slide, and I think I've used what? Almost an hour.
I mean, I'm sitting here going like, damn, this is heavy stuff. This is heavy stuff, and it hurts. It hurts to hear it because that is the message that's trying to be applied. So, and
Yeah,
yeah, it hits you in the feelers.
it does. It does, and I hope we have had this at an earlier point in this play, so we would have been able to see the things as they popped up and not let them develop, not let them grow root, not letting them grow and become so strong that they're going to be able to beat down again. So my simple, what can we do? What would I do? Um, and this is not a cookbook for you to follow. This is not me saying you should do any of these things. I'm just putting this out to say that the play for us is going to be so much harder. A lot of these things we can do as an individual. A lot of these things should have been done if we didn't use the energy to fight each other. So we have a poster boy of the hedge funds, and that's Kenny. And Kenny's been the symbol of everything that's bad and evil. We're coming back to how we portray our enemy, good, bad, and we need something physical. That's Kenny. But Kenny isn't the only one in this play. He might be the baddest one. He might be the most vicious one of them. But we're not trying to understand him. We're not trying to understand what ticks him. I would go after him. He's done some shit in his life. Thing is that when we do this, we have to be truthful and we have to be able to back everything up with facts. One of the things he did was going after his wife with a bedpost. Why are we not seeing that anymore? He needs to be reminded. Why do we need to remind him of all his flaws, of all he's done wrong? Why do we need to remind his business partners, his clients, of why he is really a bad guy who can't be trusted? Two reasons. One is basically number two down there. If we can get the investors to pull the money, I'm going to talk a little bit about, might not be Kenny as a person. If we can make him look bad in the eyes of his peers, I'm going to bet you this guy has an ego that is the size of a bus. Once you attack the ego, once you attack him as a character, he's going to be angry, he's going to lash out. Once you're angry, you act with emotions. When you act with emotions, you make mistakes. I'm pretty sure we can piss him enough off that he's going to make mistakes at one point by just telling the truth, by making him looking bad in the eyes of his peers. Well, talking to the investors of the company, I actually believe that most of the ones who invest in his company don't care if he killed the Pope, as long as they make money. So we're going to tell him what happened the last time that a company restricted how much money you could pull out of the company. Why did they do that? They did that because it was a company that was on the brink of failure. They care about the money. So we have to explain to them, we have to tell them that their money is in danger. They're about to lose all their shit because they have a guy running the money who has an ego so large that he's unable to see his own flaws. Then the voters, the elected officials, um, we need to reach a wider audience and tell what we're doing and why we're doing this. Because we're so focused on each other, we're so focused on new and old apes that we forget who really holds the power is the wider population. The elected officials, well, what's their biggest worry? That is not getting elected for next term. They care about voters. So if we can actually, I was about to say, convince them that this is going to help them getting reelected, or if they go continue down this path, we're going to put out in public what they're doing, how they're damaging the American economy, how they don't take into interest the Joe Sixpack of the Americas. We're going to expose them. On the other hand, if you care for the American population, if you're doing something good, and that's the next one, empower those who support us. And you have to get beyond red and blue. This has to be across partisan division.
Bipartisan, yeah.
Bipartisan, yeah, that's the one, yeah. Expose the lies. What are the lies of the campaign they're running against us? Expose the lies and make sure to do it with links, make sure to do it with facts. Back it up. And the last part might be a bit unpopular, um, but us screaming 1.2 million, now it's 1.3 million, now it's 1.4 million. I seriously believe if we ever get into the real high numbers, and I haven't set a floor, I haven't set a ceiling on what I'm going with, basically what Casey also is. I'm hoping for enough money that if I want, I can retire. Um, but us screaming 1.2 million, next one is 1.3 million. We keep upping it. We keep pushing some of the conspiracy theories that are pretty far out. We even recognize it ourselves. They're pretty far out, but that can be used against us. And that is going to be used to portray us as a cult, to portray us as conspiracy theorists. So if we're going to push theories, even conspiracy theories, make sure we back them up. Make sure it doesn't make us look like fucking idiots in the general in the eyes of the general population. The good part of us keep screaming 1 billion at each other is that we all raise the expectation. This is a bit back to how we portray the enemy. This is simple. Everybody can understand it. It might not reach a million, but we're going to go up there, and the higher we believe the floor is, the longer we're going to hold. So I might not hold to a million if I believe the million is the floor, but I'll hold to 900,000. So I'm sure that I at least get as close to the 1 million as possible. So we need to be careful of how we portray ourselves. And we're not always good at this. And as soon as we misstep on this point, the disinformation campaign is going to pick it up and use it against us. So this is like 5-10 minutes of thinking about how can we do this. There's probably a lot more ways. Again, you would sit down, you would say who's the target audience, what is the message we want to portray them, and what do we want them to do. But I think these are valid points. Last thing I would do, I would target all the ones working for the hedge funds. I'm not talking senior management. I'm talking lower down. The guy who actually handled those orders, the guy who wrote the algorithm. And I will tell him he's welcome. We will accept him with open arms. He is not our enemy. If he wants to come forth, if he wants to expose all that is wrong, if you want to expose all that is criminal within the system, we will stand up as a community. We'll protect him, get him in contact with the right people, house him if that's what's needed. We would welcome him as a brother. He's not our enemy. That's an important part. That's also one of the things that we made as a mistake as soldiers often. We're not willing to open our arms and accept our enemy because not all of them are our enemy. What I would love to see is every single day on Reddit, because there's somebody out there reading Reddit, there's somebody out there monitoring Reddit. Every single day there's a message that's saying, if you want to come out, if you feel bad, We're gonna help you. You can contact us on this one. This is a secure way to contact us. We'll make sure to get you to the right people in order to protect you. We welcome you. That's my last part. So that's it. Hold on.
You had more slides.
No, did I? Fuck. That's not it. Oh, just summing up. Not all fun is directed at you. Um, so don't just laugh it out or ignore it because it's meant for somebody. The campaign will be the most intense before decisive battle, and that's what I believe I'm seeing in this week. They can lie, we can't. That's it. We need to be truthful all the way. We need to have a clean path. And if you're pushed in front as a front figure, make sure that if you have done something shady, you push it out. You tell about it, or you make sure that you haven't done anything nasty in your life. So you're not caught at a bad point of them pushing out that, oh yeah, by the way, he also was caught for driving under influence and everything like that. Distrust, paranoia, uncertainty, internal fighting, and closing in on ourselves because that's also a tendency we have. We're attacked from every side, so we close in as a community. We don't open our eyes. We don't engage anything but the community. That is what is helping them. We
Yeah.
need to look outwards. We need to get this out broader.
So
Unity is our force,
I want to
not
touch on what
collusion.
right exactly
Yeah,
because
not collusion.
rules have
Unity.
said suddenly buying more feels like a crime, and that's not what we're trying to portray here. It's just
No,
that
no, no, no.
yeah, it's more about acting in a unison or trying to announce that we're going to do it at a specific time or day or anything like that. It is not a crime to buy Ezreal at all. It is
No,
your money. It is your choice to buy AMC when you want to, or any other stock when you want to. It is your choice to sell when you want to. But what we are
exactly.
trying to say is that our actions and our words are under scrutiny right now, heavily under scrutiny.
Yeah,
The seeds that would that 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 will break our beautiful soil that we've tilled and cultivated. The seeds of weeds have been planted, and those weeds are going to try and grow on our beautiful farm. And it's getting those same seeds are getting watered right now and getting sunlight just as much as the rest of our beautiful farm is. And so we need to watch out for that disinformation that's out there. Um, there,
awareness is
it's
a good thing, and that's usually the easy part. And don't feed the narrative.
yeah,
Counter it, ignore it, don't feed it.
yeah,
Um, in regards to the whole collusion thing, I remember a senator, I think it was all the way back in the beginning, in one of the hearings, and he went, "Oh yeah, we need to press for harder jail crimes and jail time for collusion and everything like that." Until in the end, he was actually talking about retail investors, not the hedge funds.
hmm
Remember that? That was some crazy shit. But if he can point to collusion now, that's a way of him building his case. Sorry,
yeah.
hold on.
Well, thank you, Duncan. I appreciate it, man. As usual, thank you for being a moderator. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for doing all of this from a place that's not here in the United States. And I know I feel that we have a lot of people on this channel who, like you, are foreign holders of AMC, and you guys don't get the voting rights, and you don't get some of the. Hopefully, you got. Did you get your NFT?
Yeah, I got mine. I
All right,
haven't
sweet,
cashed in on it yet, but I've got mine. Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'm glad you at least got that, but that's a good thing. So, but the whole thing that you guys don't get voting rights and some of the things that um, North American shareholders get, it sucks. I wish that's something I would love to see change too. But thank you for being a part of this movement and this community because every single one of us makes a difference here. Every single one of you. And You may not realize it, but just even the smallest words that you say could help somebody, but it could also be negative. So you have to be very careful with your words and what you do. But man, thank you for the presentation and thank you for talking to us about that because I know it's an issue. It's a serious issue right now, and it's something we need to be mindful of.
Perfect. Thank you for the kind words.